Hello, hello. Oh, okay. All right, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be with me. My name is William Steele. Right now, I currently serve as the CEO of a company called SupplyPay. I'm sure you guys have seen some of our logos around the event. We are in the process of rebranding to another name, which I'm really excited. We'll be doing some press releases and getting the news out there. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I like building things. I'm very curious. You'll find that there's so many like familiar faces, friends, coworkers, colleagues. So I'm super happy to see everyone here. But today I'm going to talk about building AI native foundations, and really more so than that, I'm going to get into a case study of an entrepreneur and his team who I had the pleasure to work with for about 3 to 4 hours on a weekend. And we're going to go over what they were able to build. And they are not technical, right? So these are not software developers, not people trained in that. They're just trained in good business acumen and good business practicality. Yeah, let's get started. So we're going to look at two examples here. One over here on the left is Gold's Gym, which is like, Gold's probably has their own engineers that maintain their website. They have to do it over a huge scale. They probably pay designers. And on the right, you have my favorite gym in the Rio Grande Valley, Top Gym. They're a team located in Mercedes and in the Westlaco area. And so this was what they were able to build. And at the end, I'll actually go live to the website in I think like 2 or 3 hours after I taught them like how to use certain skills within Claude Code. And once we got their harness set up and got them writing code, they actually like wrote the HTML using an agent. And then they figured out on their own through screenshots and troubleshooting how to get this deployed and hosted onto their domain. So again, show of hands, how many of you have ever had to like take HTML and host that on your own, whether it's your own server or through a cloud service? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you guys can't. My team over there. So okay, cool. So a minority. It's a bit of a process, and if you're not technical and it's your first time looking at these things, it can feel overwhelming, right? Because you're looking at like, what's a DNS record? What's a CNAME? I'm looking at a bunch of like what looks like hexadecimal. It looks like a bunch of zeros and ones. It can be confusing and challenging. So yeah, one of those was built by a gym owner and his team with no technical background. You guys probably know which one. A little bit about me. So I mentioned earlier, SupplyPay and Harva. We've raised over $100 million in both venture capital and debt. So if you guys want to talk about raising, we can talk about that later. I'm an alumni of the Startup Texas Accelerator program here. I had the pleasure to pitch to some really notable entrepreneurs like Steve Forbes, John Mackey, Richard Branson, and a bunch of other really incredible founders and entrepreneurs that I admire. So at the end, I'll show you this. You guys can scan that later. But yeah, stick around and you guys will be able to check it out and sign up for some of the workshops. So the most dangerous business in the Valley isn't the one with the best product. It's the owner who learned how to use AI 6 months before you did, right? So there's like this really incredible thing going on right now in the business world where AI is able to help automate a lot of your business. And ideally, this leads to operational expenses being reduced or revenue going up, right? This leads to, if you're a service business, more bookings. If you're a product business, more selling, right? And so if you learn how to use these tools, you'll be in a much better position than your competitors. And that's kind of what I'm here to talk about. We're going to go into an exact example. So this is Juan, serial entrepreneur. He's the owner of Top Gym, had previous experience in the trucking and logistics space, had built a successful trucking logistics company cross-border with his family. Out of Top Gym, he has spun out a new concept, which is also growing in value and in increased reach and following, which is TG Med Spa. These are higher end products, peptide therapy, GLPs. You can go in and get your blood work done. It's really, really comprehensive medical treatments that you can do to get proactive about your health. It's really exciting. And real estate development. So he's a very diverse thinker, right? So he's not only just doing, the gym, not only experience in trucking, also spinning out the med spa, but he's also developed plots of land and gone through that entire process. If any of you have ever done that, it's its own, skill set and domain. And so before I had worked with Juan, he had never written a line of code, right? His experience was completely non-technical. How many of you have written code before? Quick show of hands. Okay, so we got a minority here. So after 2 to 3 hours, this is what he did. Within about 20 minutes, he and his team were able to get the API credentials from their point of sale system and spin up their own live sales dashboard. So I don't have a screenshot of that because I would have to blur out like all of their sales and private information. But they're able to ping, hey, which one of my sales reps was the best seller this month, right? And what were they selling? They're able to do this for their inventory, for their items. This took them about 20 minutes, and they were able to do this entirely through natural language. So if you're a business owner and you've ever been like, hey, like I wish I had more insights into what I'm selling, which products are doing well, in what areas or storefronts, if you're AI enabled, you can build this yourself. And you can do it all just through natural language, in English or in Spanish. You don't need to learn code. So this is what the gym looked like before. This is like some screenshots they were able to go back and retroactively provide for me of their website. So this was a mobile view. They took a good stab at it. They didn't want to pay web developers several $1,000s to build something. Juan has always leaned on the side of like, hey, how can we get it done for less and it'd be great? Now with AI, it's really popping because what they're able to do now. So they were able to provide some really, kindly enough, some nice metrics about their website conversions after this redesign. They were essentially able to double their bookings for gym memberships through the website through redoing this, right? And this was totally free. This was not something that I had to pay for. This was like maybe $5 in credits on Claude Code and maybe like $10 to host. Like one gym membership paid that back, right? And now they have this forever and they get to iterate on it. So the before for the med spa, if I'm not mistaken, it didn't exist. So they didn't have a website before. And boom, he was able to provide an immaculate site, which people can now go convert on. And he's refining the onboarding process for these new clients. Again, non-technical, did this, him and his team, a day or less. And then again, he just completely rinsed and repeated it. Did it for the real estate subdivision development. Now it's like a very presentable website for anybody that's ever sold lots before. It's a really important thing for your business, what the web appearance is like, how they're looking at it visually. So yeah, they were able to do all this. So this one was also omitted for privacy, but it's inventory automation. So ordering, the ability for your stock to, let's say, live on an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, and when it hits thresholds of low, an agent spins up and automatically goes and presents to you, hey, we can order paper towels at $2 a roll from this vendor, would you like me to execute it, right? So for businesses that have a lot of inventory, like restaurants in particular, like I have a restaurant with my wife, I know what this is like. You're constantly placing orders. Like you're on the phone with your vegetable, your fresh produce distributor, you're on the phone with your meat distributor. This is something that you spend a lot of time with, can be easily automated, and you don't have to deal with it anymore. This one was really fun too. So we took an open source project known as the Agency. If any of you want to go check it out afterwards, it's a really fun one to look at. And he was able to invoke some of those agents to build very channel specific content for a 30 to 45 day content calendar. This is down to the exact video script of the video that someone needs to record. This is really great for him because this enables him to just turn over a content calendar that he's already pre-approved, that he had a lot of ideation with an agent with, to his team to execute on, right? So most people, I'm sure all of you have managed to a content calendar before or just tried to produce content. If you don't have a good calendar and if you don't have a good script and you don't have a good plan, that's like more than half of the battle. Once you have that, then you can produce consistently and constantly. This is all very easily doable. So yeah, so I'll pause here, and I really want to address concerns that entrepreneurs may have about, hey, like this is great, but he knew you personally, right? So he must have some special advantage that I don't have. That's not the case. Like, you don't need to know programming, you don't need to know code. You probably will become very code and programming curious as a result of using these new tools, which is a great side effect, I would say. Um, but you don't need to be technical in any way. And this is a pattern I've seen in like many areas of my lives. We have in my company, I can speak on concretely, examples of non-technical personnel building up MVPs for new functionality in our products that they want to see deployed. They built automations on, follow-ups, whether that's through some of our CRMs. You're starting to see an adoption from non-technical personnel in applied AI in a really great way. And so, like, don't feel overwhelmed. You know, there are ways to use the system and continue to learn and iterate with your own, where you're at in your own journey. And I can show you guys that at a later workshop. So Juan, didn't have any special advantage. He had curiosity. That's the only precursor that you need to be successful to build some of these systems, like Juan and his team have. And I can also tell you, like, they're just getting started. Like, these are some of the first rips that they've taken. I always challenge him, like, hey, why don't you completely rebuild your own management tool for memberships, right? Like, that would be another big tool that would take off a subscription. There's a tons of things you can build in your business. It's really about being wise and picking the ones that are going to move the needle to either drive more revenue or reduce your operational expenses. Those are two really big levers you want to push and pull on as an entrepreneur. So, direct quote from Juan. From that experience that we had, he was already weeks ahead of schedule, right? Because he had the websites planned at different stages, but they were able to save a ton of time because they were able to just prompt it, come back, iterate, reprompt, and deploy. Yeah, this is a great quote from him too. The ideas that you're wanting to build matter now more than the technical skills. He's thinking a lot less about back end work and focusing more on the people, the team, and the customers. And so at the end of the day, that's a really powerful position to be in as an entrepreneur, because that allows you to make the most informed decisions about the direction of your company and where you want to go. So yeah, you don't have to be technical. So now this is where I'm going to tell you guys more about what we're doing with eBridge. So I've partnered with BCIC and a couple of other municipal governments to provide AI intensive workshops. These will normally probably happen likely on a weekend, because that's the only time I have that I'm really available. But it'll be about 2 days, 2 to 3 hour spurts, twice in a day. And we're going to go and walk away with all of the lessons that Juan got during that session. But it'll be a bit more elaborate and catered specifically to your businesses and your needs. So, you'll walk away with a live website deployed for your business, completely redone, and have those taste skills and those agents living on your computer afterwards. So you can take it and do anything. If you wanted to go build a website for your neighbor, you could. We will walk away with an automated workflow for, ideally, as long as it's not too crazy, the most repetitive process at your business. Whether this is like, hey, like, I constantly have to follow up with this person for this thing. If you take a step out of yourself and look at your calendar and just track, like, hey, like, what am I spending the most time that's a repeated task doing over and over and over again? There are ways of building workflows to help reduce at least a substantial amount of that time you're spent doing that. A reusable project brain. This is a really important part. It's about how you're setting up and informing these LLMs on your system. And then, of course, like, if you don't have a co-work setup, or we can also get into some nitty gritty of like how to run agents in parallel. These are things that we'll be teaching there. And then some draft brand guidelines. So one of the really cool, fun things that these agents are really good at is building like very robust and elaborate guidelines if you have a good foundation of where you're at, right? So in the case of Top Gym, I'm very privileged to work with them. They had tons of pictures of their gym, tons of logos, great graphic design. That content really made for really great fuel to give it to provide guidelines and then build the website and build the flow, use the color schema, all of those things. So in the workshop, you'll walk away with that as well. So it's a 2-day hands-on workshop. We'll be doing it with the eBridge. At the end of it, the main outcome is that you as an individual will now feel fully confident and informed on how to use these tools to do anything you would like. The real main unlock is if you're curious, you can solve any problem. It's going to sound really simple through screenshots. You can just screenshot whatever you're looking at, put it into the system, say, I don't know what's going on here, explain it to me, and you will learn. And it's like if you do that, you are like an automatic gyroscope to the solution of whatever goal you're trying to achieve. It's just a matter of persistence. And if you're a persistent person, this is like one of the coolest times to be alive because you can solve and unlock literally anything. That's it. I know it sounds like simple, and when you really get it, it's very empowering. So that's what I'll say. Oh yeah, one thing, you definitely have to have a Mac operating system. I do not like fiddling with Windows and PowerShell. It's not a pleasant experience. I did it once for someone. So yeah, another thing that we have, and this is going to be something for more advanced individuals, like if you are a software developer, you have had some experience, you're already using Claude Code to build things and deploy things. We're putting together an advanced intensive, which is a similar concept, except we're going to have a bit more of a deeper dive into some of the things you might be building. I'll leave it at that. There will be much more exploration in several different open source frameworks. One of them personally that I like to use to build things that's very thorough is like GSD. Some of my team and I, we've experimented with BMAD. These are all like things that you can go and Google, download from online through GitHub, and immediately deploy and use in building things. So yeah, we'll do some of that stuff. The waitlist will be open for that. So yeah, in short, we went through a quick case study of one entrepreneur and what happened in doing kind of an AI intensive for 3 to 4 hours with he and his team, what the direct tangible outcomes to the business were, like how it impacted their company immediately. This was within like a week, right? This wasn't in a month, in 2 months. Didn't take them a long time to learn and spin up. Like they were curious, they hit a problem, they screenshotted it, they fed it back in, they got the answer, and they just kept going. So, you know, he's a business owner with curiosity, same tool, same accessibility, and, you know, did it, he and his team. So yeah, if you want to join the eBridge AI Intensives, we're doing our first one in May. There's also the advanced waitlist. You can go ahead and scan that there. If you want to learn more about my team, what we're working on at Harva, the information is also there as well. Happy to chat, and I'll pause here and turn it over for any questions. I think this is the last slide. Oh yeah, there's some of my handles and stuff if you want to follow me on X and LinkedIn and Instagram. I probably post the coolest stuff regarding fundraising and company building on LinkedIn, and more like personal, what I'm like researching on X. Yeah, and then if you want to scan for waitlisting, it's on the top right. So that's it for me. Thanks, everybody. Question? So production can be done in a number of different ways. Using AI in production, I'll say like, if you're asking about video specifically, like video production, that is pretty tricky and actually does require some fine tuning. So like I've explored using like Higgs field. If you don't have like a very clear concept of what you're trying to do, it can be difficult. But you know, the prep work, all of that can be done. In terms of pictures, you can do that pretty well, right? So you can use like some of the new image models to produce things, and even like I know OpenAI, ChatGPT's got like highlight functions where you can go in and edit things out if you wanted to like remove a word or change a word. That you can do and refine and create like static images or carousels quite effectively. And if you have the concept of what you want on the carousel to be, and it's very descriptive, you're essentially just taking that content calendar prompt, feeding it in, seeing the result, and then whoever's job it is at the business to refine that, they refine it. Where it is like really exciting, and even I can speak on our at Harva, we have an internal challenge ongoing right now of trying to apply video generation models to have like not just make videos. Anybody can make videos, but to make videos that have real impact at the business level, right? Like how the way we're measuring it is like how many demos were booked as a result of that video. I don't know what the results will be. We'll have to see like what everybody comes up with. It's something I'm excited to see. But yeah, that's a challenge that we're taking on internally. I like to do this. This is more of just like uh, I guess CEO preference. Like I like to do these things through challenges where like the winner gets awarded, right? So like beat the challenge, get $1,000 bonus, something like that. Um, and that incentivizes the team to like really try to think out of the box. Like, hey, like how are we prompting this? How are we making this? Um, but yeah, the video is not fully solved yet, at least for me, and I haven't spent too much time diving into it. Images pretty well solved. You can just take that prompt, feed it in, and then if you wanted to, you can just automate that pipeline. So like if you create the calendar, you can have like a daily. You can even just set it up as a cron job or something like that, and you can just have that prompt from the calendar feed into your Chat GPT API, and then reproduce back the image, and then cron job. It's just like yeah, it's just like a developer way of saying like a routine thing that the system does. Yeah. It's basically just like a scheduler. Yeah. Any other questions? We got one. Yeah, so on the LLM, if I'm not mistaken, was Claude, and I think this was during when it was Opus 4.6. And they used a specific skill that I really like. It's an open source skill. It's called the taste skill. I have actually supported that open source project because I liked using it so much on my things. So that is like something you can just go to GitHub, download, and then now that lives as a skill that you can invoke uh, from your model. We got one here.
So all this content that we're creating and websites that we're creating, where do you recommend, or where do you host your, like when you create a new website, you know, probably everybody in this room has a GoDaddy account of some kind
Yeah.
or whatever, I mean, I'm old school. What do you think is the best way to host different kinds of websites? Maybe some that have like a lot of data.
Yeah, personally, what I've done in the past, if you want to do it really quick, you can probably just do it in Vercel. It's easy, but I like to use Cloudflare, and then I'll actually connect the GitHub for that particular website into Cloudflare. So like every time, what that does is it enables you to have like various versions of the website live through time. So if you want to revert back to a previous one, the version control is done through GitHub. So that's something again, like I'll teach in that intensive, like that you want to be able to like deploy it out there. But again, one of the coolest parts about this is you could just like once you get to that website, be like, hey, I need to host this now. What's the best way to host it through time? Give me options on the pros and cons of those different things. So you would probably get something back like you could just there's probably a function where you can just take the HTML and deploy it easily instead of having to set up your GitHub and you know connect it for version control.
I did this thing where I did the OpenClaw agent and to try, I tried it with a bunch of all I did was screenshot it back.
Yeah,
It just,
nice, nice, good, good, good. Any other questions right now? Mm. So like if it's a site that needs to like take information. Yeah, yeah, I think the question is, and please let me know if I'm wrong, if your website needs to take in information from a client and store that information and then make decisions on that, like what's the best approach there? So that is a really great general engineering question. Like whether your approach will be completely dependent on the nature of the project. If it's like for a medical company, if you're going to take information, it needs to be HIPAA compliant. So there's a lot of encryption that needs to be involved in like how that information is moving across the internet and like the general state of your website. So it would just depend entirely on your business. That is something that using a framework like GSD or BMAD, some of the things I mentioned earlier, these are open source setups, it would ask those questions to help you answer it yourself. So, like, it would help you identify, oh, I need to set up encryption for this reason or that reason, or I can't use this particular framework for or library for whatever arbitrary reason it decides. Those are systems for building products, and so it'll help you navigate that. Does that help? It'll help you navigate. Yes, it will help you navigate identifying what the pitfalls of your different choices may be. So it'll help you identify pros and cons. Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, in order for you to process uh, information that is sensitive like that, you need a certification. Yeah, so it might help you prepare for that certification. Whether or not you pass it is up to the certifier and their standards. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so the rebrand for Harva. So that's a really good question. We first started SupplyPay with the intent to solve one main problem, which is longer unstable cash flow cycles found in international trade. So when a grower sells to a distributor, let's say the growers in Mexico, the distributors in the US, it takes a long time for people to get paid in these processes. So SupplyPay was a very straightforward name that made a lot of sense. We're helping suppliers get paid. As we worked with clients and customers in that industry, we found that there was a lot of room for improvement on their systems of record. So the what's called an ERP, we found that there was a lot of them hadn't been updated in a very long time, and we were watching our clients basically do patchwork operations from a person's perspective to use really bad software. So they were adding extra steps in a process, or someone else was delegating a task to the wrong person. We were just watching inefficiencies, and we thought, man, there's something that we can do there that will really help improve the lives of these clients in their day to day. And we can take some of this new technology that we're using embedded into those workflows and have a huge impact to them long term on their operational efficiencies. And then additionally, how that compounds is it makes for a very great set of data for us to underwrite our clients with. So it enables us to approve them for invoice financing or revolving lines of credit faster than it would be done otherwise, right? Because an ERP is actually the full accounting system. It's the general ledger, it's the balance sheet, the income statement. These are all reports produced directly from that system. It's the inventory management system, right? So looking at like, hey, I have X amount of tomatoes. It's been here for X period of time. Like I need to get those out. It's the documents, purchase orders, sales orders, passing orders, bills of lading, all of those things involved in that, um, all in one system. So that really supercharges our underwriting team to help get you, possibly even more money, right, than we could have otherwise given you, because the lending business is a very different hat, if you will, than a software business. And so both of those synergize together to produce really great results for the industry. So we found that rebranding away from SupplyPay and into Harva really encapsulates that whole suite of functionality that we offer to our clients in the industry. Yeah. And then your second question? Yeah, so mostly because I found that other entrepreneurs were asking me for it. So they were like, "Hey, like, how are you guys using it? What are you doing?" And I'm very thankful to BCIC because without this building, without these people, SupplyPay would have never existed. So like it's foundational to the entire like history, and it's a huge part of my journey as an entrepreneur. So it's an opportunity to work with BCIC to program something that I think is going to be very useful for other entrepreneurs, and for somebody who's like actively working, you know, at the frontier of finance, international trade, and using AI within these businesses. I hope it's useful. There's a use for all of them. Um, there's so much more power unlocked when you're able to pull from open source projects and use that to your advantage. So like if you're going to use Lovable, you're kind of like you're not like necessarily pigeonholed. Like if you just, it's more about learning to use Claude Code or some type of coding agent and learning the structure behind that, learning how to deploy something, learning how to uh, essentially code without code, I guess is the best way to put it. When you learn the principles behind that, when you're able to like navigate an agent's markdown file, as an example, through an IDE, this is all just like, again, when you learn what these words are, you're gonna be like, man, this is not that complicated. It's just a way of viewing files. It's a system for a graphical user to see a file. Once you like learn these things, and you're able to go on X and see somebody just published a whole new repository of agents that they think has some huge, profound impact on your business, well, you can go test that. You now have that autonomy and confidence, more so than anything, to go pull that repo, inspect it, use it in your workflows. If you, and there's nothing wrong with just using Lovable and like building up your apps, right? Um, correct. And so like, there's nothing, it's not wrong, right? It's more like I'm almost like teaching something different than just using an app, right? It's more like the thought process behind like, hey, how do I, using these tools, solve any problem or navigate to any solution set that I want? And Lovable might be what they recommend, right? It might be like, hey, here's this thing that I want to do. It might be like, dude, just use like Lovable or Base 44 or some of these things like that. It's also knowing when to use the right tool is very important. Steve. I think Yeah, I think that's because honestly, that's all my bandwidth personally can handle. Like if I'm gonna say yes to somebody who applies, I really want them to walk away with a level of confidence in their ability to navigate how to use these tools effectively well. I don't know, and it might just be lack of my skill. I don't know how to teach 20 people in a room how to do this well yet. So I can confidently say a room of 5 to 8 people, probably err on the side of 5. They'll all likely walk away being like, man, I feel like I can go build anything and I can empower my business in these ways. It'll be a very clear walk away. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely think about that. We should talk afterwards. Um, but I'll say this on that. Hopefully, if I did my job right, you never actually have to call me again. That's like the tricky thing about it is like if you learn how to properly screenshot and feed it back in, you won't ever have to like call me unless you just want to talk about some cool stuff you built, right? That's like what I think the result of it should be. If I fall short of that, then it's on my teaching skills. Yeah. Any final questions, anyone? Are we at time? What's the time? Oh, cool. Yeah. Any more questions?
When is the cohort?
It should be in the week and a half to second week of May. We're going to be following up with the applicants, and then BCIC will finalize their dates. I know they have their prototyping lab big debut. You guys tracking that? Next Monday, I think. So I think it'll be sometime after that, probably like the following weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Anyone else? Nothing else? All right, everybody, thank you.